rejoice and we're glad in it. Thank you for this opportunity, oh God, to speak on this topic, that it will be a blessing to everyone that hears it, who sees it, Lord God. We ask now, Lord, you bless every one of these panel members, God, that you would just speak through them, that you would use them, Lord God, with boldness and with might, to be a blessing to those that will hear it, God. We thank you right now for this opportunity and for this format. Bless those that are here. We ask now that you would strengthen them right now and bless them with the very desires of their heart. And Father, we come against every assignment of the enemy, declaring that he is canceled out and void right now in the name of Jesus. And Father, we give you the glory, praise, and honor for it right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. We good, John? Okay. We're not recording yet. We're going to be recording. We're going to count it down. All right, about 5 seconds. Make it 10. Everybody get it together. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here, and we are going to be talking this morning about an awesome topic that really people don't talk about a lot, but we're going to talk about mentoring this morning. And this is Around the Table with Debbie, and I have some awesome panelists with me, and so we're going to introduce them to you so that we can get right into the topic and have as much time as we can. We're going to try to limit this to about an hour. There's no way we can get everything in there, but we're going to get in as much as possible. To my right, we have a specialized probation officer from Juvenile Court of Chatham County, Mr. Kenneth Williams. Next to him, we have Mr. Rodney Jackson Sr. He's one of the sons of Allen of Pleasant Grove AME Church. To my left, we have Mr. Donald Lovette, the chairperson of the Liberty County Commission. And next to him, we have Mr. Jeremiah Melton, a Liberty County School student and a mentee. It is a topic that we're talking about today, which is mentoring, and it makes a difference. And I wanted to do this close to Father's Day because fathers, even for their own children, are mentors, even if they don't realize that's what they are. And last year, I remember asking Brother Jackson what it is, what topics men might want to discuss on Around the Table with Debbie, or what kind of things they would be interested in. And he said an immediate answer, and it was mentoring. Why did you say that?
Well, nowadays, if you look at the way the world is going now versus back then when we all grew up, you know, it's like the fathers in the house are missing. And the kids are looking for their father figure out there in the street, and it might be their wrong father's mentorship. You know, they see what the guy's doing for us, drugs, alcohol, and they kind of like, you know, want to get that. They put a glory to that. And they want that fast money. They want those nice cars, you know. And it's like the fathers are missing in the house, and the kids are treating their parents any kind of way.
Okay. Well, if we're going to talk about mentoring, let's understand what mentoring is. One thing that the dictionary says a mentor is an experienced author or advisor or supporter, usually older, who advises and guides a younger, less experienced person. But there are some words that stood out to me: wise, trusted, and influential. Because mentors come in all, I guess, all dimensions in a way, but they can be good mentors, and then they can be not so good mentors, or not so good examples. But one of the ones that stood out to me, it said a true mentor is not just asking questions, it's not just an occasional thing, but it is more of an ongoing thing. It's a relationship. So you don't have them this year, and then you drop them the next year. And so mentorship is an ongoing thing. Anybody want to bounce off of that?
You're very right with that. I found with mentoring that to be an effective mentor, you have to gain the trust of the mentee. We're taught in mentoring that the worst thing you can do is to lose the trust of the person you're trying to mentor. Once that's gone, it's gone. They need to be able to look up to you and to know that you're going to come through when you've been there. A lot of times because someone hasn't been there for them. So you certainly want to. If you're going to stand in the gap, and it's a mighty move to say you're going to mentor someone. But if you're going to do that, then you got to be ready to commit. I guess the word is commitment to the mentoring process, because you're affecting the lives of so many people when you do that.
Well, Jeremiah, we know, is a mentee. Did either of you have a mentor?
Well, I had a it wasn't a formal mentor, but I had a few coming up. My father was absent, but I did have a few good guys in the community as far as basketball coaches and track coaches, and they kind of guided me like to stay on a good path. And I'm going to piggyback on what you said. Endurance. It's not just a short period of time. If you're going to be a mentor, you got to be able to guide that person throughout life. That person got to be able to pick up the phone 5 years later and say, "Hey, I'm having a situation. What did you help me with?" So it's not a sprint. It's not a marathon.
You say something interesting. I hadn't really thought about it until I was doing some research on internet, and it showed movies that talk about mentors. And one of the ones was Coach Carter. And a lot of times, even if when you hear the athletes on TV now, they say, "My coach has been like a dad, my coach has been like a mentor," or whatever. And we don't really think about it like that. But recently, I think it was maybe starting a year ago, you started a program at the court where you use the kids who are maybe at risk or whatever to start coaching. Has that made a difference?
Yeah. Well, actually, I started a sports program. We started with the track program first, and then we went into doing the basketball program as well. In some areas it helped. Opposed to dealing with a kid outside of sports, you may have a few issues. But when that kid came to my program, he was able to listen, he was able to follow directions. A lot of them looked up to me, and I can remember one story. Walked into a school as a probation officer, and I could hear this kid say, "Hey, that's my coach right there." And then I got feedback from the teacher saying, during the period of time he was doing track, he needed that. And a lot of kids need that extra activity in life, and a good person to kind of deal with them and help them do these different challenges in life. I think with young men, the hardest thing for young men is to be an individual, because young boys tend to follow other young boys. It's hard for them to say, "Hey, I'm going to wear these knockoff $5 shoes," when everybody else is wearing $120 shoes. You know, we put them in a uniform with a white shirt and khaki pants, but if you don't have that proper pair of shoes, you don't fit it. And young boys don't get that if they don't understand they're individual opposed to.
Okay, Jeremiah, we know that you are a mentee that you are under right now, if I'm correct, 11 Black men of Hinesville.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us what that has done for you.
What it's done for me, it's made me a better person, mentally and physically. You learn a lot from the program, like how to, just simple things in life, like how to manage your bills and all of that stuff. We have like classes like that. Yeah, it just helps me move on in life.
Would you say that if you didn't have maybe this mentoring program, you'd be down a different path? Or did it just open up maybe your understanding to bigger things?
Yeah, that's what it did. It opened up my understanding of bigger things. I thought I couldn't do anything when I was coming up, so once I got in the mentoring program, I knew that I can do a lot more if I had God in my life and people to help me out.
So now you have confidence.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a plus of a mentoring program, adds confidence
Can I
to
add
it.
something?
Sure.
Something that I found out about mentoring in the program that Jeremiah's a part of is that there's the formal, if I may say, the formal mentoring, we have a formal program. Then there's also, if I may use the word casual, informal mentoring. And the pleasant surprise, a lot of young men are not looking for anything special to do. They just want to hang out with somebody. They don't want you to do a whole lot. Go to the mall, let's just walk. Let's eat now before we leave. But let's just do that. A lot of times there's nothing specific that's costly.
Yes.
Only thing that costs is your time and your commitment. That's been a pleasant surprise, but it works, and he's right. They'll call you 5 years later and say, "How you doing? What's going on? This is what I'm doing," that kind of thing. So I don't want anybody to turn away from mentoring because they think it's going to be financially costly.
Right.
It's just going to cost your time and your commitment.
I remember you don't hear much about it now. It used to be called the Big Brother, Big Sister. Before, is that the same mentoring program, or are they still active?
They're still active in some communities. I hear about them occasionally, and it's a formal program, of course, where you're assigned to a person or persons, but it provides the same mentoring. There's ample opportunity for mentoring in the United States of America. Excuse me. Listen, and that's why I said again, it doesn't have to be formal. If you want to do it in your neighborhood, you know, with the boys in your neighborhood, on your block, whatever, do that. Here again, it's nothing that has to be so formal and so binding that you don't want to do it. You can do it every day on your block.
And I just want to piggyback on that. I know in Chatham County, we do have Big Brother, Big Sister, and I think the issue there is males. We need male volunteers to step up and be a part of that. And that's the issue that we're running into, not enough males.
I was looking at also in my study, and in the National Mentoring Partnership called Mentor, it says that nearly 17.6 million young Americans need or want a mentor, but there are only 3 million that are formal or high quality relationships in mentoring, and so that leaves 14.6 million not who do not have mentors. One of the things it was talking about needing mentors, needing more men, but sometimes men having that issue about whether they have what it takes. What does it take to be a mentor?
I think just life experiences, knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. I'm not going to give a kid something that I know that I don't do well at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give him something that I know I can teach him or coach him or whatever, whether it's sports or whether it's reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. Just think you need to just work on what your strengths are.
I think part of that, Lloyd, y'all chime in, we have if I may say, a generation of young African-American men, especially who've grown up without the father in the home. So a lot of these fathers now don't know how to mentor because there wasn't anybody there for them. So they don't have that, if I may say, skill set. So it takes a special person to go out of that,
Right.
out of that safety zone to quote unquote, how do I mentor someone when I wasn't mentored myself? There was no one there for me. So what do I give back? So what I do, I try to raise my son the way I was raised, that hard, shut up,
Yeah, right.
man up, that
That's
kind of thing.
the thing,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. As versus all the stuff that, say, Jeremiah's been exposed to by being in a, I may say, a formal mentoring program. But I think the void is that a lot of our young men, a lot of our young fathers, no one, they weren't fathered. Is that a word?
Yes, it is. Okay, Mr. Jackson, you are a father of 2 sons, and I know that as a father that you try to mentor them as well, but do you think in addition to you, they need an outside influence, perhaps another organization to also mentor in helping you?
Yes, definitely. Excuse me. I didn't have a mentor coming up. I mean, my father was there, but he wasn't in the house. And my uncles, they was all in trouble, in and out of jail, so I really didn't have nobody coming up. So I tried to do the best I can with them. And I know, getting some help from the outside helped me out a lot. As long as they didn't get that wrong type of help. And then if the wrong type of help came that way, they was big enough to come to me and talk to me about it. They talked to me about stuff they couldn't talk to their mom about. So they trusted me on that part. All right, I just kept trying to guide them, lead them in the right direction. For us, making sure they stay in school, making sure they have everything they want, so they wouldn't have to go out and take it. They wouldn't have to go out and steal. And make sure they treat others with respect the same way that they want to be treated.
There are a lot of single mothers out there who want help. Can a woman be a good mentor for a young man?
Well, I'm going to say something. I grew up, my dad was not in the house, but I grew up with my mom and my 3 brothers. And at that particular time, we stayed in one of the worst neighborhoods in Savannah. And she managed to keep all 3 of us out of trouble. She kept all 3 boys out of jail, all 3 boys graduated, and 1 went on to college. So a strong woman with good morals and good values to put in her kid, it would work. But at the same time, I was always searching for that male role figure. But I wanted to find good people, like good coaches and just good people in general.
Can I
And same thing with my mom. She raised 4 of us, and she worked like 2 jobs, right? And just to make sure we stayed in school and stayed out of trouble. But she had the help of my father's sisters, none of the women, and she had the help of some of her sisters. So we was all, just grew up with like a house of women. My mom and her sisters and my dad's sisters, even though my dad was around. So and we all managed to graduate high school, stay out of trouble, You know, half of us went to the military and made a good life. You know, and so we was, you know, we really didn't have a male figure around.
One of my mother's claim to fame is that I raised 5 boys and none of them ever been to jail. On probation. On paper, as they say. None of the 5 boys ever thought about that. And he's right. It's a strong mom who put down the rules. Those are the rules. But you got to start that, you know, from day one, from the cradle. You can't wait till he gets 13 or 15 to start put. It's much too late. That's what mom did. She set the rules, and we knew what the rules were. We abided by the rules, and we all turned out pretty well. Can I go back to one of the points you mentioned earlier about the in the Lovette Men program, when young men are referred to the program, some of them come from families with the mother and the father in the home. But sometimes the mother says, well, you know, my husband's a mechanic. I want my son to know more than just about cars, you know, or he's whatever. I want him to be exposed more than that. So she knows the resources available through the mentor programs. We've got a lot of young men in our program for that reason, because they want to be exposed to more than just what the dad's a good stable man, you know, but they just do what they do. They do that well, not about it. But they just want their sons to be exposed to more, so a lot of the mentor program offer those other horizons to the young men. Take them to trips to D.C. and let them see the Smithsonian, all that kind of stuff, where dad maybe not into that kind of stuff. So I've seen with mothers, but these are mothers who know they need to reach out. Which
Right.
You mentioned that earlier. The mama got to have some vision. What do I want for my child? Exactly. And expose him or her to it.
What if you have a child or young boy who comes up to you or comes up to a gentleman and says, I want a mentor. I'm asking you, can you mentor me? How do you respond to that if you've never really dealt with it? I know you don't want to, you know, be a bad influence. How can you reply to that?
I think a good man really won't turn a kid down. That a good person will find some type of way to deal with that kid. Try to offer him things and give him things that he needs to deal with life and deal with different situations. It takes a good person to be. I know you said a point where some guys wasn't, you know, they broke their father and they don't know what to give, but it's just simple. That can affect his life.
Yeah, and really, these gentlemen would agree that when if a young man should approach you, answer that question, you say, me? Why me? But it's an honor. It really is an honor for a young man to say, would you be my mentor? Would you be my, sometimes they say, my pops said something to say now.
And at the same time, they may see something that you don't realize.
That you take for granted.
Yeah,
Exactly. Take for granted.
Jeremiah, did you think before you entered this program, well, let me ask you this. Did you think you needed mentoring? Was it one of those things where you wanted to do, or mama kind of said, you going to get in this?
Well, I kind of did want a mentor because, you know, I really didn't have a father figure. I really didn't see him that much, so, you know, I wanted to look up to someone, so I had that father figure in my life. And that could keep me straight and go down the right road.
Is it what you thought it would be?
Yes, ma'am. Even better.
Okay. How's it better?
Because I learned a lot of things. I learned things from him I never knew how to do.
Let me ask you this. What did you learn about you?
What did I learn about me?
You said earlier that you gained confidence. Did you not think, did you have a lack of confidence before? Or did some things you thought you'd never get to do, or you weren't qualified to do, but now you can?
Yeah, like talking in front of people. I used to be shy all the time.
And look at you now. Look at you now.
Miss Lovette knows I was shy, but now, because we do plays in our program, so, you know, that helped expose me how to expose myself to other people in a community.
That's good. I'm going to ask you all about this particular statement. One of the things that I ran across in dealing with mentoring black males for the 21st century, they came up with this, they had this statement by Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I want all of you to kind of sound off on that. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And I want to say this before you start. Sometimes men don't realize they're broken. And they go through life literally hurting or not meeting the standard that they could, because they don't really realize that there's a broken place in there. So I'm gonna start on this end, and we're gonna come around. What does that statement make you think?
I can totally agree with that statement. We have to start from somewhere. We can't repair a lot of things that happened in the past. We have to start with what we got and build from there. You know, even in my life, I'm 39, and there's moments where I feel like I should have a mentor. I need some guidance still today. So we got to start somewhere. It's just an ongoing process for us mentoring and being a father. It's ongoing, and I think you just start from where you're at and build up.
Okay, and I'm holding it up. So there is no age limit? It doesn't necessarily mean young men?
No.
Okay.
No, there's plenty of days you sit there and you wonder, hey, I need help with this. You know, how do I get help? Who do I speak to about this? And it's an ongoing thing.
Okay. What do you think about that statement about easier to build strong men, a strong youth, than to repair a broken man?
Well, the Bible said, train a child up, you know, in the way he should go. And that put me in the mind of me being in the military all these years, and I have a lot of soldiers. And I put them in mind where you catch a brand new soldier, fresh out of basic training, you catch him before he get into those bad habits when he joins the military. If I can catch him that early and then train him the right way, and he's going to go on and have a successful career, versus I'm coming to a platoon that the soldiers is already in bad habits. They already broke. Now it's harder for me to train them and get them on the right road versus catching somebody fresh training. So it'd be harder to you know, catch the ones that's already broken, because they both went in the process of getting broke. Somebody made all these promises, put them way up here, then all of a sudden they're gone. They just dropped. And now it's hard for them to trust me when I come in. So I have to earn their trust. I respect them. I don't go in and just try to take respect. I try to earn that respect from them first. And that way they can follow me easier and learn.
We're going to come back to that statement about earning trust in a minute, but you know.
Piggyback to what Jack said, he's right. I've seen so many cases of adult young men whose lives have been formed by their circumstances, by their upbringing, by hurts and pains, trials and tribulations sometimes. So when you meet them on the adult level and you're trying to guide them to a better way, it's hard for them to let go of what has been their foundation all their lives. That's all that they know, and to tell them to turn away from that. Who are you to ask me if this is how I've survived? So who are you now to come to my life and say, let that go? That's hard. And those are walls that takes time, and he's right, trust, and a lot of prayer to break those walls. Because the walls have been built because of who they are and what they've been through. And you just don't walk in there and change who he is overnight.
Well, if you raise a child like he's supposed to be, if you mentor him up from an early age, he will soon to be a good man to raise his kids and keep his house in good circumstances. But yeah, like to piggyback off of him, it's not gonna, for broken men, it's not gonna take a short period of time to repair what they've been through in the past, because you don't know what they've been through. So you have to find that spot or whatever, and you have to build off of what you've got and what you know.
There is and I've heard it particularly, I guess, during the news and over police broadcasts and so forth. Gang association, they say a lot of times develop because there is no male figure, or there is no example to set. So they come into the gang because that's their family, and they trust them more than they trust perhaps a family member. And in that, then, if they had a mentor, maybe it would have made a difference. But it's sad to see that, because of the lack of the mentorship, this is an avenue that a lot of our young men and young ladies wind up going. How can you, to somebody who has been through a lot, been through that, you know, nobody was there for me, how can you build, or how can you earn that trust? What steps can you take to earn the trust so that they will allow the wall to go down?
You just kind of like expose him to stuff that he's not used to. You know, the way he's growing up, you show him that that's not the right way versus the way that you want to train him and you want to mentor him. You just expose him to all different things, different cultures. You know, something that he's not used to. It might take a while for him to build that trust, but you can start from there. Just expose him to different things that he's not used to seeing within.
Okay.
And I want to piggyback on that, because you got to understand, he's running with that game and she's running with that game because those kids are in the same situation. They see life the same way. The saying that they have a narrow mind. You have to broaden their horizons. I'm going to agree with you on that. You have to expose them to everything, new things. A while back, I took a group to Tennessee on a whitewater rafting trip, and we decided to do something different, take them to an Italian restaurant. And without looking at the menu, you would be surprised how many kids wanted to order stuff like from the community, like Chinese food. They don't serve Chinese food at an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
You just got to expose them to these things because they don't know it's a bigger world out there. They just know what's in front of them and what's around them.
That's good.
And Jeremiah said earlier in the trip of the word, he said, find that spot, you know. And it takes a while to do that. But everybody's got a spot.
That's fine. Yeah.
But you got to find, it could be sports, just like you said. And you know, he was Jeremiah himself was very shy. But, you know, because we always do a skit doing the Let Me in banquet. So I pushed the young man to do that. He's done, being shy, but he's done very well with that. He didn't know he had that spot. He's done very well with that. Now, on his own, would he have done that? I don't think so. But exposure, something outside of, he's an athlete. He's academically inclined too. He does well at school. He's got the good credentials here. But still his world was, how you say it, wrapped in those lines. Yeah. So now his word is right. We just talking about him being a psychologist a few minutes ago. I said, Jeremiah, most psychologists with PhD. He said, what? So don't think your bachelor's going to be enough for a psychologist, but that's exposing him, opening his horizon. Let me say this too. There's a young man who was in that midterm program, and father was on drugs actually. And then the father died prematurely, raised by the mother who did all that she could, and then that midterm program. And he told me, you know, later years, he said, when I came to this program, I just kind of sat back and I watched. I wanted to see if you guys really who you said you were. He told me that. He said, that's why. I know he was distant. He said, because I was watching. I wanted to make sure that this was a legitimate program for me to be involved in.
You got to prove yourself to them that you're serious, that you really want to roll your sleeves up and get involved. Because if you don't, they're not going to buy in. They're not going to buy in.
How, you're a probation officer, how do you think mentoring can keep some of the young men that you see from ever getting to you?
Like I said, it starts with some building blocks. You got to break down the old, bring in the new, expose them to different things, show them that you're an individual, you're not part of the group. I think just being an individual alone and teach them how to stand on their own is probably one of the most important things you can teach them.
Not having anybody as a mentor or as even just a father figure, does it make them angry?
I was angry.
Okay.
I was angry for a period of time. But then like I said, I ran across some good coaches who showed me other ways of taking out my anger. Yeah, I was very angry.
Now, who were you angry with? Everybody?
Yeah, I was upset and angry with the world for a lot of different reasons. I say this all the time. If there's some type of recipe for an actual thug, I've had a little bit of everything in my life to make me be one. But things changed, and things changed for a good reason, and it brought me here. But yes, I was angry for a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons.
My experience was a little different. My mom and dad separated when we were young. We moved next to my grandparents, and so all the love and care and concern, that was always a part of my life. So I don't know what it's like not to feel love. We didn't have steak, but we had food. We had grits and bread. So my granddad farmed all kinds of stuff. So I guess in essence, he was the father figure. My dad was a good man. Moved to Florida, came back. When he come, I was happy to see that kind of stuff. He wasn't there every day. There were a lot of gaps in between.
Right.
So either my grandfather filled in for that, or my uncles, when they come home from the military, they were there for us, very supportive, give you the car,
Right.
give you that leather jacket, that kind of stuff. So I was surrounded, they kind of filled the gap. And then some teachers in school, I think maybe my 5th grade teacher, I was good at Houston, that kind of stuff, so he kind of took us in and got me into scouting, that kind of stuff. So different folk came at different times to do that. But everybody just don't have that. Everybody just don't have that. So when you don't have that support system, then a lot of things can't happen. They don't always happen. Jeremiah hadn't said anything, but if I remember correctly, Jeremiah, you chimed in. How did you and Mr. Chapman meet? Mr. Chapman is our president of that.
Well, I had got in trouble in school, and then, but I had met him at the juvenile thing down in Hinesville, because we had like a meeting or something. So I had met him. He had took me out. I forgot where he took me, but then I knew from that moment that I had help on the way, and that I was gonna do better things in life.
I knew at that moment I had help. That's a key thing to realize I'm not in this thing by myself. I mean, I have it all together, but I realized at that moment I had help. Help is awesome. I didn't grow up with my father either. He wasn't there. And so over the years, I can't even say what kind of effect my mom was. Mama, daddy, all of it, all in one. But is there more of a need for mentoring for young men more so than young ladies? I mean, I can't say, you know, I say I grew up being loved and so forth, and maybe not to my older years that I realized not having a father, some of the things I missed. But I was also raised, you know, in that household with mom and the grandmother where, now, you know some things you don't do. Not if you want to live to see the next day. So, but is it more important, or is it more of a need for young men to have mentors than young ladies?
I have a daughter, and I have one on the way. And as far as mentoring them, it's going to be showing them the important things they need to find a good man. When you get out in this world of dating, you want a guy to treat you a certain way and deal with you a certain way. You just don't want to deal with any and everybody.
Right.
So that's what comes to mind when I think about girls.
Okay.
Well, I don't have any daughters. I got a bunch of nieces. But I sit back and I watch how Pastor raised Jessica and Jennifer. You know, he opened the doors for you. He opened the doors for them. He's just showing them how a man should treat them. You know, he teach them how to respect each other, how to respect themselves. That way, they demand respect from a guy. And you know, and the advice I tell my nieces all the time. I said, you should hide yourself so far into God that a guy have to search Jesus in order to find you. So therefore, if he search God to find you, then you know you got you a good man. He's going to treat you right. He's going to treat you with a lot of respect. He won't call you all out your name, right? And he will be that guy that open doors for you, open the car doors. You know, won't leave you standing out there telling you better get in. Come on, you're gonna get left.
You know he's serious.
Right? You know he's serious and he's gonna treat you right.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, there's a need for both. In Liberty County specifically, because of the success of the 11 Black Men, there were 2 different organizations established to work with the young ladies. A little different the way they're formulated. But yes, both genders need mentoring, but I think it's a different kind of mentoring. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
As to what the guys need versus what the ladies need.
Okay. Explain that. What's the difference?
For whatever reason that none of us know, the young ladies don't get into the stuff that the guys get into. And I'm not even sure, I think the young men seem to get into it sooner than the young ladies do. The young ladies seem to stay pretty much on the straight, I say straight and narrow, you know. Keep it together. longer than the young men do. Young men stray off much farther on the path than the young ladies do. But the need identified to work with both genders, but I just see, even when we look at our jail statistics, I'm sure that it would tell you that there are a heck of a lot more young men out on probation and incarcerated than there are young ladies. So the evidence is there. Yes, they do need it, but in a different way than the young men seem to get to the hard stuff.
Yeah, because when you look at a girl and a boy, it's easy for a girl to go to school and get all straight A's and don't have any problems. But if you go to school and you get straight A's, or you're lame, you're this, you're that, or you think you're smarter than me, you think you're better than me. So it's hard. Yeah. It's a difference.
Young men are held to a different standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're supposed to do certain things to show your masculinity. Yeah. If you don't do that, can I say it? You're punked.
Yeah. And we miss out a lot on that too, because you can be smart and bright, but you don't let that show because you want to fit in with this group or that group. And in the girl situation, she just go ahead and go for it.
You mentioned that the 11 Black Men of Hinesville, and we're honored to have Mr. Terry Enoch here from the 100 Black Men in Savannah. Thank you for being here. Which both are very good mentoring programs. I know that's not the reason that it was first organized, but what kind of impact has this organization made in mentoring the young men in the community?
Me or Jeremiah? I want Jeremiah to answer it too.
Okay.
I want to hear what he has to say. In our community, years ago, two young ladies from our community had gone to one of the largest cities and they were exposed to 100 black men. And they said, well, we may not have 100 in Liberty County, we can do something. So they came back and encouraged us to get started. We got incorporated, the rest is history. 1989, I think, something like that. But I've just seen such a valuable impact. We have so many, listen, it hasn't been a 100% success story. I'm going to sit up here and tell you that everybody has turned out well. But I can tell you that 90% of them have, maybe a little more than that. For the very reason we discussed earlier, expose them to different things that I've seen, expose them to other males, exposing them to expectations for them to excel and to do well. And I promise you, if Jeremiah didn't have Mr. Chapman looking over his shoulder, his grades probably wouldn't be what they are. Now, it didn't say he didn't have the potential, but he just needs somebody to say,
Well, from the mentoring program, I've seen some of the other boys, they blossom really well. Because I know them because they go to my school and I see them around a lot. And just to sit back and look at them become a young man better than what they were in the past, it's really amazing. It inspires me to also, it encouraged me to become a better man myself.
Okay, there's a scripture that says iron sharpens iron. Because you all have been mentored, do you think you want to be a mentor?
Yes, I had the thought of being a mentor. I really didn't go in detail with it, but you know, I'll be glad to help a young man out when I'm older. Or right now, I help my brother out a lot, because you know, yeah.
that's what you have to do within the household or within their friend circle. There's a young man who's on his way back, from moving back to Liberty County, the area from Tennessee. He said, "Just love it. First thing I want to do is get back." He was on a transit. I want to join the program, but I want to give back. So it does plant that seed. Sometimes, even wherever they move to, they start doing that. It'll be coaching or whatever, they start doing it. So yes, you cannot measure the value of mentoring and what it does. Some of these young men, I'm thinking one specifically, who they send when we have the annual banquet every year in March. So if they can't come, they send messages back, greetings back, tell the young men to hang in there, tell them it's going to work, tell them the value of the program, that kind of stuff. So you just can't measure the value of the mentoring.
One of the things I want to say is if in mentoring somebody or a young man, and you just said all of them are not successful, it would be wonderful if it was, but all of them are not successful. But the mentor can't be discouraged, because when they become discouraged, then they want to quit. But if you have 5 and 1 makes it, it's still worth it. Can you all agree with that? How do you keep, as a mentor, how do you keep yourself motivated when it looks like maybe, even if you have one person and they're just not getting it, how do you keep going?
The worst thing you could say to me is, what are you going to do with that child? What do you think I'm going to do with that child? I'm going to roll my sleeves up and I'm going to keep working with him. Keep working with her or him until we can get something done. You just got to realize when you're working with them, you're not going to be able to reach all of them. Just like you said, maybe one out of five, but I'm going to try my hardest to reach those other four. Just the whole idea that you can get up one morning and put your pants on, knowing that you're going out there, you can change somebody's life. That's rewarding.
Sometimes you get that phone call, a card or something to say, hey, Mr. Lovette, how you doing? Just checking on you. Let's do it again then.
Yeah.
That's all the motivation you need. The Lord sends that to you.
Yes.
The Lord sends that to you.
We'll keep it quick.
Yes, He will. He'll send that to you. So there's always a bright light somewhere's going to come to encourage you to keep on going. And you just can't give up. You just can't give up.
It's and I keep going back to my military days. When you get that one soldier that stays in trouble, once he get in trouble, everybody want to slam him, take his rank, take his money, really be hard on him. And what I found out is just you have to sit down and talk to that soldier and find out what's going on with him first. And then once you find out what's going on, then you take the proper steps to try to help him and lead him and guide him back into the right direction. And then first thing the soldier say, nobody ever sit down with me to find out what's going on. I do this and all they want to do is punish me. All I'm doing is making an honest mistake. And I always tell them, you can make a million mistakes, ain't nothing wrong with that, but don't make that same mistake a million times.
That's good.
What he's doing, he's using the methods he learned all his life to deal with those situations. Now it requires a change, but that's scary to him now. You always pushing him over the edge. You always pushing him over the edge. So somebody's got to sit down and make you feel comfortable and walk him with baby step through the process of change.
And nowadays, when I see those exact same soldiers from years back, they always thank me. They'll come up to my wife and say, that's the best sergeant I ever had.
That's a good plug for you right about there. Hidden stories. I think everybody, it's fair to say, really everybody has a hidden story. But it takes a good, in what we're talking about, mentor, to dig deep enough to pull out the hidden story. One of the things I think about sometimes as we go into court and have different things is that the child sometimes will act out to get negative attention in order to get any kind of attention. Sometimes if they don't feel loved, that if the only way my parents are going to notice me is if I steal or if I, do something I shouldn't do. But then to get inside of the story and not just categorize them and say, well, they need to go to jail. Everybody doesn't need to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished or take care of, responsible for what they've done. But sometimes it takes getting to the hidden story to make a difference in their life. And being able to, wanting to get to the hidden story is so important, which means we can't give up on that. And one of the things as a leader in church, I know recently our Sons of Valor have begun a mentoring program. How important is church in this whole mentoring thing?
It's the same, it's that visual. On Sunday morning, it's that visual. Seeing men active in church service, in worship, not afraid to praise God, not afraid to participate in worship. Picture worth 1,000 words. That's over half of the battle right there, just seeing the men involved in worship. Then otherwise it's seeing maybe the Sons of Allen, like when we do the Mother's Day, or when we do different events, sponsoring things, it's all that. And we're working to intertwine the young men into the worship experience. Let them do the scripture, let them do certain stuff, and then have the outings and involving the adult with the young male, that kind of thing. It's building that trust again, and let them see you can do this. It's okay to do this,
Right.
in spite of what your friends say.
Yes. Yeah.
It's okay to do this. The church has to be a safety zone for they can't come to church and get beat up.
Right.
They can't come to church and get beat. They're dealing with enough as it is.
Mhm.
So they can't come to church and get beat. So somebody has you find that history story, and I like the way you say that, because there are a million one of them out there that a lot of people have.
I think people need to also realize in this, like it's kind of went on by, we're probably about 10 minutes out, but is that we have to be careful, whether we are a mentor or we're an adult or whoever, we have to be careful what we say to these young people and to each other, but we're talking about young people. I can't say just because if Jeremiah did something wrong that he's never going to be anything, because that's what he hears. If Brother Donald came up to him and said, you know what, you can do this, but I came and said, you're never going to be anything, the never going to be anything is what he's going to hear. And so we have to be careful whether we're a mentor or not to be able to be a positive influence. And that means that whether I agree that I can be a mentor for you, at least I'm going to encourage you. Everybody to that level of mentorship ought to be able to do. And so that means we have to watch what we say because we know the impact that we will have on ourselves. How important, let's say you don't have a formal mentoring program, but you want to have a workshop that has all these issues that young men deal with. Can churches do that? That'll be that'll aid to it, even if they don't have a formal mentoring program. But they do have a workshop to offer such things as self-esteem or exposure to different things, how to treat a leader, how to treat yourself, how to respect yourself. Can those things help?
Yes, very much. Yeah. Very quickly. About 3 weekends ago, some of the young men who were in the place who they wanted to go have went to River Street. And I was surprised. Listen, one of them lives in Midway. The other came into a military family, but went through high school at Home Yards, had never been to River Street. They were down there like typical tourists. Exposure.
Yes.
Exposure.
Yes.
Exposure. Listen, their parents are here, and they had never gone to River Street. So we take for granted what children are exposed to, what they're getting in life. Listen, sometimes mom and dad in the house, and they're still not getting it. One of the best I said to was 11 black men, a young man who's a VP at Phoebe Putnam Hospital in Albany, Georgia. He come one day, he was a good student, track star, like I said. Shy like Jeremiah. That's why mom put him in the program, because he was just too, she wanted to come out of that shell he was in. So he called one day at work. He said, Mr. Lovette, never guess what happened. I said, what? He said, I tried for a position and I got it. I said, well, good for you. So he was the director over the patient access department at that time. He said, guess what? He said, I had to do a PowerPoint. He said, I took that 11 black men stuff you taught me, and I did it. It came back to him.
It works.
It will come back.
Yes.
Casting bread in the water, he'll come back. He'll come back. The young man doing very, very well now. Mom and daddy both in the home, but he just didn't have that anything outside of that. A good, stable family. Sometimes we take for granted too that behind the house on the hill, everything's cool. Not always so. And in mentoring, they'll tell you. We find that spot. They will tell you.
That spot is very close to that hidden story. In this program or in any program, how important is it then for them to make it plain to them that they can share their feelings? We have this macho thing that we're growing up, you don't cry, whatever. But to be able to express to them, you can let your feelings show. There's nothing bad about being a man and crying. There's nothing, if you're going through something, to talk to somebody about it. How difficult is it for you to get across, talk to somebody?
Well, first of all, he's going to have to trust you in order to talk to you, because a lot of times when young boys talk to somebody, they're so afraid that that person they talk to is going to put their business out in the trade. And now everybody knows their business, so they got to have trust before they even talk to you. So you got to show yourself trustworthy to that person in order for him to put his business and his personal feelings out there to you.
And that trustworthiness coming up over again is so important with young men. They have got to have that. And that's right. They don't want you to, it's just you and them. They don't want you to put the business out. Put them on blast, as they say. If you do that, they're shutting down and they're not going to trust anybody else.
Yeah, because
just alone men don't speak, they don't talk.
You
at
don't
all.
say. You don't.
Just being a man,
That's a
you
whole
don't talk
nother
at
talk
all.
around the table right there.
You don't
Men
talk.
don't talk.
So that trust is gonna be very important.
Okay.
Trust that, just feeling like you can sit down and talk. Because we don't talk in general.
One of the last things I want to really bring out is you have men who are going to be hearing this, who are going to be seeing this. If they are interested in either getting into a mentoring program or beginning a mentoring program, what are the steps that they can take?
Let me go back, good question. Even with, you mentioned earlier about the churches, and I'm sorry we didn't, got carried away with the answer. Sometimes you don't have to be the person or just doing the mentoring program, support the program that he has.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Help his program to be stronger.
Mhm,
We don't, everybody doesn't do the same thing.
mhm.
But the program that's working, that's successful, support that program so they can do more.
Right.
I see churches being able to do that, as well as what they would do internally. I don't know, a mentoring program that they're good models. I mean, our brothers from Savannah, we got a group in runs several groups around this area that are doing the mentoring. And we can't have too many.
Mhm.
We cannot have too many in the mentoring program.
Right.
Because none of us can reach all the young people that need to be reached. So we can't have too many. But I would just tell them to, to make contact with one of the programs that are doing well,
Mhm.
find out how they're structured, just model themselves after that.
Right.
Get them some committed mentors who need to be trained, and they will learn then that how valuable trust is. One of the first thing you learn is the person has to have your trust. If you're not going to commit, don't do it, because once you tell Jeremiah you're going to pick him up to go, to McDonald's, he's looking for you.
That's right. That's
He's
right.
looking for you.
Early.
And he might let me get away with it one time. Second time, I don't come. You know what?
Yeah, he did it.
He's trying to rip me off. You know. So they're not going to commit, don't even.
Mm.
But there are several programs that are doing really well, and they can certainly do so.
I'm going to take a moment here and want to go and just greet and see if our member of the 100 Black Men in Savannah, Mr. Enoch, whether he has anything that he'd like to add to some of the comments that have been made.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I am just so encouraged as we're in this Father's Day week. The greatest gift that we can do is pay it forward and invest into our greatest resource, our kids. Listening to the panel, you guys are on point, and I thank you because you've allowed God to use you to address some of these pressing issues that we have in our communities. There's something going on with black males, and it's just not germane to this region. It's all over this nation. And organizations, we have the Black Men, the 100, churches, just people who believe and understand that we have work to do out there, and we're getting engaged and getting involved. That's important. I'll tell you something that's just as important as the mentor. My brother just talked about it, is people supporting programs. You don't have to be a person to show up every day at the programs they put on, but your financial support, transportation. You may purchase a ticket for a kid to a movie. You may have a connection with a museum that will donate some free admission for kids. That exposure, those things matter. The other thing is collectively pooling our scarce resources together so we can do more. I've found that there's no need to replicate something that's already working well. But if we bring that to the table, we bring that resource